Hello, everybody. Welcome. Hey, I'm Money Mike. I got my guy Marco Nunez from the former head athletic trainer for the Lakers, and also he runs Evolve Athletic. Marco, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Just trying to wrap up this week 13 of the NFL fantasy football season. We got probably one more week left, and then we got the playoffs.
Yeah, playoffs. These are the real playoffs. The playoffs for the fantasy league. That those are more important than actual real playoffs as usual, right?
100%.
Yeah. Well, let's get into another crazy week in football. Let's get into right into it with Hayden Hurst, tight end of the Cincinnati Bengals. He has a calf strain.
Yeah, so Hayden Hurst, tight end with the Cincinnati Bengals, left this week's game with what they considered a calf strain. They haven't really diagnosed or stated whether it's a first or second degree calf strain, but either way, one way or another, the calf strains are going to be something significant. So expect them to miss at least 2 to 4 weeks into the regular season. Having said that, obviously he was a kind of key component when Jamar Chase got hurt. Joe Burrows kind of went to him. And he's going to probably be out for the rest of the fantasy football season.
Yeah, out for the season. So, hey, gotta go find another tight end out there. We're gonna go and make a couple suggestions later on in the show. But let's go ahead and talk Lamar Jackson now. Lamar Jackson, he hurt his knee today, and what's interesting about him, he kind of bet on himself this year, and I don't know, man. Like, this hasn't been the greatest year he's had, and now he's hurt. So what do we think?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say this, and I agree with in the part a lot. Some of the critics out there right now are saying the same thing, that he kind of bet himself and did he shoot himself in the foot type of thing. But I think at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson's still Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Whether the Baltimore Ravens going to give him a contract, somebody's going to give him a contract.
That's true.
Hey, the Niners might be looking for a quarterback for next year. They might end up giving a contract with him. But either way, so Lamar Jackson left today's game what they've categorized as a knee injury. They haven't really mentioned what specifics going on in the part. I don't think they're not sure exactly what's going on. So he's scheduled for an MRI for probably most likely tomorrow, Monday, if not definitely no later than Tuesday. But the one good news that came out of Baltimore is that they don't expect this to be a season-ending injury. They expect him to maybe miss a week or so, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I was just looking over the injury, and what's interesting about it, normally you would see like a twist or something like that, and this looked like he just really just kind of landed on his knee real hard.
Correct. And then that's what appeared, that not only did he land on the knee, but as he's being tackled, the opponent was kind of also on top of him, kind of full weight bearing. So I wouldn't be surprised if we end up with maybe like a contusion or something that sort, like at the patella tendon or something of that sort. So it was actually, you're right. There was no twisting. There wasn't anything that kind of popped out that said, hey, most likely maybe an MCL, maybe an ACL, or anything of that sort. There was nothing that kind of just stood out from the video.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go ahead and, man, this guy, Cortland Sutton, was on my team, and he got a hamstring strain immediately.
Right away. Yeah. So they just got back Jerry Jeudy from, I believe it was also another hamstring strain. He was out for about 2-3 weeks. So they finally kind of started having their number one and number two receiver. Then Cortland Sutton goes out for the rest of the game. Now he has a hamstring strain. They haven't really categorized whether it's a first or second degree, but either way, expect him to be out probably most likely minimum of a week, if not anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the degree of the strain. Usually a first degree strain, you can be out anywhere between 7 to 10 days. A second degree out, most likely you're at anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks. But like we've mentioned before, hamstring strains can be very tricky, just like we talked about Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, they talked about it week 1. Hey, this is going to be a very minor. And then he ends up being out for almost 8 weeks.
Yeah. Like, look, I think they should make a rule next year, especially for no other reason for this show. Give us the grade, like if it's a grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, so that way we can have a little bit more specific in what's going on with this. But they have the reason for hiding that information.
Correct. There's a lot of things as far as HIPAA. Every league's slightly different. There's something that we've talked about here. We've talked about on the Profanity Nation show,
right?
That the disclosure of the specific injuries varies from league to league. So, some, for example, in the NHL, all they just say right leg, left leg. They don't tell you whether it's knee. They don't tell you whether it's ankle. That's it. Even in the NBA, the rules have changed over the last couple of years. A lot of this is basically to protect the player himself from any criticism or anything whatsoever type of thing. So it varies from league to league.
Yeah, it really is. It's an interesting thing because obviously they want to withhold as much information as they can because that allows for their opponent to have more of a competitive edge.
Right, but I think they should instill some, like, maybe a fantasy football league rule that they have
Yes.
to disclose to the fantasy football people.
You know what? Maybe as all these fantasy football leaguers need to unionize. Say we're not
Yeah.
going to watch the games unless you guys give us what the injury is. So that way we know we're going to win and lose the game.
And trust me, there's a lot of money in fantasy
I know
football.
they're going to lose a lot of money if we all just didn't watch a game. We could probably make a difference and probably change the rule. That would be crazy, you know. But anyway, let's go. Matthew Stafford. He got a spinal cord contusion.
Yeah, so this is interesting. So Matthew Stafford hasn't played the last 2 weeks, and I think they had categorized him as having a concussion, or he had entered the concussion protocol type of thing. They finally reported that he's actually had 2 concussions this past season, so they weren't kind of sure. And I think this is what we talked about last week, that they were thinking or leaning towards actually kind of just shutting him down for the rest of the season. And I guess they finally announced it, that they put him in IR, so he's out for the next 4 weeks, and he's out for the rest of the season. The way the Rams are playing, they don't have their 2-star receivers. The running backs are kind of hurt, stuff like that. So there's no real reason, and it looks like they're pretty much out of the playoff type of thing. So there was no incentive to try to kind of bring him back, or hurry him back type of thing. They've categorized him with a spinal cord contusion. That's just kind of bruising to the spinal cord, maybe a little bit of nerve issues or nerve contusion in that area. So they decided to shut him down for the rest of the year.
Yeah, the Rams got to me, and I'm not necessarily a Rams fan, but a little bit more of a disappointment because, I mean, you guys, what do you won 3-9 or something like that?
Yeah, I think they're 3-9 right now.
Yeah, I mean, I understand their strength of schedule. Obviously they won Super Bowl last year, so therefore, their schedule is a little bit more difficult. But man, it's really been an unfortunate season for them as a whole.
Yeah, and it wasn't. It kind of started from game one, that Thursday night football game against the Buffalo Bills, where they got blown out by the Bills. That was kind of like an indicator, like, okay, well, what's going on? And everybody thought, hey, it's just game one. Super Bowl, kind of, you're just coming off the Super Bowl. It's
you got your rings.
You got your rings, all the excitement and stuff like that. Get out of your system. So it's very common. But then game 2, game 3, game 4 is okay. What's going on here?
Right, absolutely. Let's get into Tua Tack. You know who it is, Tua.
Yeah. So Tua with the Miami Dolphins quarterback suffered an ankle sprain in tonight's game in Week 13. Now, from my indication is that it's a very minor injury. They expect him to return for next weekend's game. What I had read, or what they had indicated, that the injury actually occurred towards the end of the game. They mentioned that he would have been able to come back if it was such a close game, but they're already getting kind of blown out by the Niners, that they kind of for conservative reason played safe. They decided to just kind of keep him out. So unless there's any setbacks this upcoming week, he's expected to come back for Week 14. So just keep an eye on his practice sessions. He's most likely going to be limited for the whole entire week, but as long as he returns to full activity by Thursday or Friday, he should be ready to go for next Sunday.
Man, look, I didn't even I was doing other stuff, doing some Christmas lights with my family and stuff. When I came in, I said, "Who just got Purdy?" My brother-in-law was watching the 49ers, and then I'm like, "Wait a minute, Purdy? Who's that?" So Garoppolo, he got hurt today with his fractured foot, and they still blew them out.
They did, and so this is it. Yeah, I mean, so Jimmy Garoppolo ended up with, they categorized him or with a fracture in his foot. They haven't really mentioned which bone it is. It could either be the navicular in the inside, the way the injury occurred. Most of the common injuries in the foot tends to be the fifth metatarsal, which is referred to as Jones fracture. But either way, it doesn't really matter. He's going to have to require surgery. He's going to probably get pins and needles in there, maybe a plate or something of that sort. So he's pretty much out for the rest of the season, definitely the fantasy football season, including the playoffs. So don't expect him to kind of return even for if you make it to the championship game type of thing. But yeah, you're right. I mean, and I was thinking about this, Garoppolo being a key quarterback for the Niners. He's a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. I mean, they have a lot of key components. They have their running back. They have their 2-star receivers already there, and they have their top tight end. They just need a quarterback that, pardon my French, is not going to F anything up. He's just going to control the offense, make some passes, hand the ball properly over to Christian McCaffrey, and then just get out of the way type of thing. Now, can Purdy do that? We'll find out and see.
Well, he did this game, so let's get into Kenneth Walker with his ankle injury.
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting also. So Kenneth Walker, running back with the Seattle Seahawks, left the game with an ankle injury in the second quarter. He was diagnosed, and they deemed that he wasn't able to return for the rest of the game, which is kind of a little bit interesting and a little concerning. Kenneth Walker is pretty much kind of like their last running back. Not the last running back, one of the top running backs left. Rashard Penny's out for the year. That he was their main running back. Kenneth Walker kind of took over He was kind of like a little gem in there that if you picked him up, he probably helped you win a couple of games, type of thing. So now it's a matter of waiting to see how he performs this upcoming week, whether he does participate unlimited or full go. Like I said, hopefully by Thursday or Friday, if he's a full participant, he should be back by week 14. But if he's limited, it's just a matter of waiting and seeing how he participates in practice for this upcoming week.
Yeah, so we have Traylon Burke, with a concussion. He's the only guy that got a concussion this week, and that's actually pretty good. 'Cause normally we have at least 2 or 3, right?
Oh, most definitely. Like I said, after the whole Tua incident, every concussion, everybody was diagnosed with concussion no matter what. So Traylon Burks sustained a concussion in the first game. If you played him like I did, I was lucky enough that he was able to get the one catch, 24 yards, give me the touchdown, and then get the concussion. So it sucks for him, but he's going to pretty much be in the NFL concussion protocol type of thing. So you're looking at him at a minimum of 5 to 7 days, but it varies from player to player. Joe Mixon, we're going to talk about it in the updates, but he was expected to come back, but he wasn't ready. So he was out for this upcoming week. So just try to see how he participates in practice. If he is released from the concussion protocol, hopefully he'll return week 14, but he's going to be a true questionable for week 14.
Yeah, we're definitely going to see. We're going to go ahead and take a break, you guys, and we're going to come back with the injury updates right after this.
Hi, I'm Renee Starms of the Starms Agency. Do you know why 97% of Hi, I'm Renee Starms of the Starms Agency. Do you know why 97% of startups fail? It's because they don't have the proper exposure. So for the first time ever, Infanity Studios and the Starms Agency have come together to provide you with the Little Guys Big Marketing Package. Now, this is for local Los Angeles businesses who are ready to launch, relaunch, or simply expose their business to grow. With this package, you're going to receive 6 months of online and offline marketing tactics in a customized plan for your business. You're also going to get a professional TV quality commercial filmed in an 1,800 square foot studio with multiple screening options. So if you're ready to grow, go ahead and click that link. We also have financing available. I'm looking forward to chat with you. Click the link.
And we're back. Let's get into these injury updates. Let's start off with Michael Carter with the New York Jets.
Yeah, so Michael Carter, running back with the New York Jets, left last week's game with an ankle sprain. He was their lead back after Hill kind of went out, or Hall, Brees Hall went out for the rest of the season, or rest of the NFL season type of thing. Now, the interesting part about this is that he did not practice at all this past week, so the indications for him playing in week 13 was very minimal. Hopefully, he picked up Zonovan Knight. He kind of did well for you type of thing. Now, it's just a matter of waiting to see how he performs this upcoming week. If he starts returning to practice, there's a chance he can return and play and participate in week 14. If that's the case, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the New York Jets, whether they're going to go into a true committee between Knight, Carter, and even James Robinson got a couple touches here and there as well. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. That's going to be really interesting because he's a pretty good workhorse after Brees Hall. So Leonard Fournette over there with the hip pointer.
Yeah, so Leonard Fournette, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are scheduled to play tomorrow, Monday night, I believe against who are they playing? They're playing against the New Orleans Saints. So we'll see how they perform. So as right now he's categorized as with the hip pointer. He didn't play last week, so as of right now, he's expected to play. He's a true questionable. I think for what I've read, he's a game time decision. So hopefully see where you have him. But if you are relying on him, hopefully keep your fingers crossed and he does participate. But if you were smart enough and pick up the backup running back, he should be ready to go.
Yeah, well, you know, 'cause what sucks about that is it's already Monday night, so everybody pretty much have already played. So I hope strategically wise, you probably wouldn't have even try to even count them in. So
Yeah, and you're right. At this point, if you had another running back to play because you don't want to kind of gamble, you probably already played it. But
right,
if Fournette's your only other running back that you have, then you're kind of hoping and rolling the dice and that he does play. Now, if you're a Rashard White fantasy holder, you're hoping that he doesn't play because Rashard White gave you good significant points last weekend. And even if Fournette does play, the interesting part about this is that it seems like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are starting to lean more towards Rashard White than Fournette. They're kind of getting away from Fournette type of thing. So I expect White to probably start and probably get majority of the carries, but there's a chance that Fournette may take some of the carries away from White. But we'll see what happens.
yeah. So look, we actually the scenario that you was talking about that actually happened for me. I had Samaje Perine, you know, for the Cincinnati Bengals. So I was hoping that Joe Mixon wasn't going to play, and I was like, yes, he's not going to play because you know Perine's been doing really, really good as a backup. But is he going to come back next week?
So as far as Jordan Mixon, all the expectations, the fact that he was limited this whole entire week, and he never really had a full practice. Like I said, like you know, you and I talked about this. I had Samaje Perine. I played him last week because I expected Joe Mixon to be out. I was also kind of keeping an eye on Joe Mixon, see what he was going to do. I almost dropped Samaje Perine, but then when I started seeing that Joe Mixon was only limited on Tuesday, limited on Wednesday, limited on Thursday, and limited on Friday, that kind of gave me indication that there's something's going on, that there's a chance that he wasn't going to play. So I kind of held out to him, and I'm glad I did. Because if you held on to him, Samaje kind of gave you a nice little 20, 21, 22 points, depending on the type of league that you're playing. So this is the same thing, like you said, with Fournette. If Fournette doesn't play, Rashard White should probably go off and get you a good amount of points. But if not, Fournette's going to steal some points from Rashard White. Same thing with Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon is expected to come back in week 14, but we got to wait and see how he performs throughout the week. If he is a full participant by Wednesday or Thursday, then you can assume that he's going to take over the role, and Samaje Perine is going to become the backup role. He may get a few touches, but nothing like he's done in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of make or break, man, for there. And it's tough, man. That next week can put you in the playoffs or not. You could be in the money or not. So it's real tough. Let's go ahead and talk Rondale Moore. Is he coming back, man? Because he's actually I have 4 fantasy leagues. He's actually a player that I have on the team that actually can make the playoffs. But other 3, I'm out.
So Rondale Moore left. I think this happened a couple of weeks ago. The good thing for Rondale Moore and the Arizona Cardinals is that they're currently on a week 13 bye, so it gives them some time to kind of recover and be able to come back for week 14. The downside for Rondale Moore is that Marquise Brown came back also. So now you got Marquise Brown, Rondale Moore, and you got who's the other receivers that was suspended for 6 weeks. DeAndre Hopkins is also back, and ever since DeAndre Hopkins came back, he has become the number 1 receiver for Kyler Murray. So the question is now is Rondale Moore going to get those receptions like he did before? Now with Marquise Brown, now is there going to be a timeshare? Where are those shots going to go? So even if Rondale Moore does come back, I have him in the league. I'm going to probably wait and see how he does, how he performs, and how he fits into these other guys with Kyler Murray, and see how he fits. How many touches he gets, or how many receptions, or how many targets he gets from this part. So it's just a matter of waiting and seeing.
Yeah. So let's get into Mike Williams, man, with the Chargers. Man, what's this guy gonna do, man? He has his high ankle sprain.
So, it's kind of interesting on the part. Mark Williams, give him some credit. He tried coming back 2 weeks ago from the high ankle sprain. Like I said, more normal high ankle sprains take anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks to recover. He came back in 2 weeks and tried to kind of go. And he did. I think he went in 1 or 2 sessions or 1 or 2 drives. And I think within the first or second drive, he kind of tweaked it again, landed on it. And now I expect him to be out probably at least the full 4 weeks. They're going to kind of be a little conservative. And also, we're going to have to wait and see how the Chargers do. Now, the Chargers lost, I believe, today. So now they're still trying to make a playoff hunt. So it's just a matter of waiting and seeing. If for some reason they get eliminated from the playoffs, I expect Mike Williams probably shut it down, get ready for next year. But if they make it to the playoffs, they're going to probably hold on to him and get him healthy enough for the playoffs.
Man, how disappointing would it be for both teams of LA and
Not
that
to
so
make
far as not to make the playoffs? I mean, we obviously know that the Rams
Well,
are
yeah,
out.
the Rams are
Yeah.
out. The Chargers can still make it. So it's just a matter of seeing. I think the Chargers might obviously have the best shot at representing LA in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but those injuries are tough over there, man. It's just been real bad for the LA teams altogether. Let's go talk about KJ Hamler, wide receiver.
Yeah, so
With his hamstring.
Yeah, so KJ Hamler is kind of considered against a third receiver with the Denver Broncos. Now, this is kind of interesting. He sustained a hamstring strain, I believe, week 8, if I'm week 8 of the NFL season. He hasn't returned. And the interesting part about it is that they just placed him on IR, which means he's going to miss for the rest another 4 weeks. And for what I've read and my understanding is that he actually had a little bit of a setback. And this is something that you and I we've talked about. Hamstring injuries. Hamstring injuries can be very, very tricky. You have to be very careful as far as how you rehab it, how when the athlete returns, how much you push him on the part. Just like with Keenan Allen, we expected him back in by week 3. He tried it, had a setback, and he didn't return until like almost week 8, week 9 type of thing. So KJ Hamler is out for the rest of pretty much the fantasy football season, including probably the playoffs. Cortland Sutton's also out with the hamstring injuries. And then, like I said, Jerry Jeudy just came back from another hamstring injuries. But let alone, you also have Russell Wilson as your quarterback there with the Denver Broncos. So at this point, I don't think it really matters if you have a Denver Broncos receiver. I wouldn't be starting him. I think the only one you can start from the Denver Broncos right now, maybe Latavius Murray.
Oh wow, and he's a running back.
He's a running back.
Yeah, it's really interesting, man. I mean, Russell got all that money, and it's guaranteed. You know what I mean? And I expect a whole lot more out of him. He hadn't done anything, and then obviously the injuries hurt that as well. So.
Oh, I mean, I think everybody expected for him to perform a lot better than that. I know I did. I expected him high hopes for him. I'm in 3 leagues, and I drafted him as my quarterback in all 3 leagues, type of thing.
Right.
And I quickly by week 4, by week 5, I dropped him, and I had to kind of scramble to try to get other quarterbacks.
Yeah, and there are a lot of quarterbacks out there.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, let's get into a sleeper picks of the week anyway. And speaking of quarterbacks, who do you think that we should be drafting? Is this guy a fluke or he's the real thing? What do you think?
I think he's the real thing, and this is I think we talked about him last week as far as picking up Mike White, quarterback with the New York Jets. He's currently rostered only 13.4 ESPN leagues right now. Now he started off slow. He did have two interceptions, but he still ended up with about 20 points, which 20 points was more than Aaron Rodgers got, way more than Russell Wilson got. I tell you that much, because Russell I think only got 9 points type of thing. But the good thing about Mike White, it's also he's going to give you a little bit of yards. I think he got a rushing touch at the same time of that part. So he seems legit. He's got solid receivers in Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson. I think he threw to Garrett Wilson at least 9 targets. I think Garrett Wilson ended up with I think like 144 yards, reception yards type of thing. So he's a real deal. I mean, if you're in need of a quarterback, Mike White's probably your best pick right now.
Yeah, because you may you may be in that limbo and squeezing in. Mike White may be the one that's going to get you into the playoffs. What about? Do you have a sleeper running back?
Yeah. So as far as sleeper running back right now, I'm looking at James Cook, running back with the Buffalo Bills. Now there is David Singletary in there. David Singletary has been there to kind of their work. Well, I wouldn't even call him his workhorse, but he does give you good solid points, 12, 13 points. But it seems like slowly the Buffalo Bills are starting to lean towards James Cook. That's something that everybody kind of predicted. It didn't happen the first half of the season, but it started happening the last 2 weeks. So if you're in dire need of a running back, James Cook with the Buffalo Bills might be somebody you may want to pick up.
What about your wide receiver pick?
So this is someone that we talked about, I think, after week 2 with the Washington Commanders, and then he ended up with the hamstring strain. He was out for about 4 or 5 weeks, and then slowly starting to come back, and he's becoming one of their main receivers, and that's Jahan Dotson, wide receiver rookie with the Washington Commanders. He'll probably be your best pick out there. He's still available. My understanding, I think he's only rostered in 26.8% of the ESPN league, so he should still be available out there.
I'm gonna throw a little monkey wrench in you, but I know that you are gonna be ready for it. We know that Odell Beckham is going around and he's seeing a couple of teams. He's met with the Giants and he's met with I think Buffalo and one other team.
There
I
was
can't remember.
also rumors about the Cowboys.
Right, yeah, the Cowboys also. We know he had a torn ACL. He hasn't played all year. Would you throw him in the week 14? Say he gets picked up tomorrow, Monday. He pitched, and then he doesn't really know the playbook of any team. Would you throw him in there?
So, well, I mean, it's still Odell Beckham Jr.
Right.
Okay? So
That's what I'm asking. That's why I'm asking the question.
The one thing about it is that there isn't much statistical data on an athlete coming back from a double ACL injury, let alone the same knee, the same ACL. We know about, when you come back, when you have an ACL injury, you rehab, you come back, you can be fine. I mean, Odell showed it. He played great, came back. Now, from a second ACL injury, the same knee, same ligament type of thing. There's not much data out there to be able to say, hey, you know what? There's evidence that he could be back. He'll be fine. But as a team, can you bring him in, use him as a decoy? You're still, even if Odell's not the same Odell and he's lined up out there as a cornerback safety, you're like, okay, Odell's over there. I got to keep an eye on him. So you can definitely bring him in as a decoy. Would I pick him up on my fantasy football? I don't know. Still Odell. To put it this way, if I have an empty slot in my spot, yes, I'll definitely pick him up. But I got to consider who am I going to be dropping? If I got to drop another wide receiver that I'm kind of using, am I going to drop Christian Watson? Am I going to drop Garrett Wilson? Am I going to drop something of that sort? Definitely
Kirk.
no.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a really interesting dynamic because, like you said, he has a torn ACL, same knee, which is really interesting because they how do you think they fixed it the first time? They fixed it the second time the same way they fixed it the first time, you think?
No. So they're gonna fix it a different way. So I don't know how they did it the first time. I don't know whether it was a graft or they used a tendon repair on that part, whether it was a patella or the hamstring tendon type of thing. But we'll see. Mm-hmm.
So, but it has to be a different way. So if they do it way A, then they have to do it way B the second time. Right. Okay, so we'll just have to see. Let's go. Do you have any other wide receivers that you would pick?
The only other wide receiver right now that he's actually doing well is Darius Slayton with the New York Giants. He's had actually three, with the exception of last week, I think he only gave you about maybe 9.3 points. 3 of the last 4 weeks, he's actually gotten a good amount of points, receptions. I mean, he's the only receiver out there with the New York Giants. Galladay isn't doing much. 2 of their other receivers, Sterling Sharp had the Achilles rupture, or I'm sorry, the ACL tear that I think went out for the rest of the year. They traded away Kadarius Toney, so seems like Darius Slayton is the only available receiver for the New York Giants right now. Now, having said that, they also did get another player that actually is able to get receptions. That if you're also looking for a tight end, if you had Hayden Hurst, Daniel Bellinger, tight end with the New York Giants, just came back from an injury as well. He was actually doing great prior to the injury. So if you're in dire need of a tight end, look at Bellinger, tight end with the New York Giants. He's going to be another receiver, or at least another pass catcher for the New York Giants in the coming weeks.
I want to throw another tight end we haven't mentioned yet is Foster Moreau from the Raiders.
Definitely.
And he actually, after Waller went out, he actually did kind of well. He didn't do well today. He only got 4 points. I think he only had like 3 receptions today, but he actually has been really good and consistent. Interesting thing about that is he cleared he went out shortly. He cleared concussion protocol and came back into the game. So do you think that he will is there what's the protocol? Do you know? Is there another test that he's going to take maybe tomorrow or so?
So here's the interesting part about it, and we talked about this as far as concussions or concussion injuries or issues, is that oftentimes they'll do an assessment on the field, they'll do assessment behind that little tent type of thing,
right.
And it's basically a preliminary assessment. If the doctor or the athletic trainers identify or they see that there's any specific signs, then they'll take him back to the locker room, do a full assessment, and then decide. At that point, if there's no signs or symptoms or any indication that he has a concussion, they'll deem him, they clear him, and they kind of let him kind of go back. But the other thing about concussions is that oftentimes some of these symptoms don't arise or don't start occurring for another 24 from anywhere between 24 to 48 hours. That's the same thing that happened with Matthew Stafford.
Right.
Remember, Matthew Stafford played a game. I think got hit on the head. Nothing happened. That was on a Sunday night. And then I think on Tuesday or Wednesday, they decided to put him in the concussion protocol because he started experiencing concussion-like symptoms. type of thing. So it's just a matter of waiting and seeing. Hopefully, he doesn't have any symptoms. He's never into the concussion protocol, and if he's available in your league, definitely grab him.
All right, yeah, because Foster Moreau, he actually was doing really well. And listen, they're playing the Rams next week, so the Rams aren't even going to try to win. So hey, he's going to probably get a couple touches. So, but hey, you know what, Marco? Thanks a lot. This was another great show. I want you guys to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Waiver Wire Pod on TikTok, Instagram. Keep an eye where Marco is going to give you guys updates throughout the week. And if that's it, we're going to see you guys next week. Thank you guys for tuning in.